you so much. All right, so let us start and look at this. So we are looking at how to gather evidence. That's what we are going to look at today. Um, why is this very important to you? One, for you, all your assignments for every semester, definitely you'll be required to look uh, for evidence and then write an essay. So it's very important. But also for even for career advancement, whether you're doing this undergraduate program, whether you intend to do masters or whether you intend to do a PhD program, you definitely be required to look for evidence. It's important in your academic life, but also very important in your professional life. For example, you can be in an organization and then they tell you um, to do a literature review and come up with a policy on whether if it's about a policy of staff management in regards to a particular area. So you will need to go and look for um, this evidence, and then you can craft a very good policy document. So searching for literature is very important for that reason. But also the important point is the fact that we are living in a generation of what we term as misinformation and disinformation. We have a lot of information out there, information overload. We'll look at the types of evidence and where we can get this evidence from, and what are the techniques that we can use in searching for this credible information. Okay, so those are the things that we shall do in this session. Okay, so we have two primary sources of evidence, primary sources and secondary sources. Remember, in our earlier sessions, we said that evidence comes from research. Okay, so with that statement, we looked at the different levels of quality of evidence, where we looked at the fact that observational studies are usually low in terms of quality of evidence, but randomized control trials and then systematic reviews and meta-analysis are actually the ones that give us very good evidence. So that was what we looked at. But here we are saying that information or evidence actually can come from, again, the same point, research, but this research is delivered in different ways. Okay, this research is delivered in different ways. For primary sources, we are looking at research articles that have been published in reputable journals, what we term as peer-reviewed journals. So someone went and carried out research and then published that research in a reputable journal. So that is what we term as primary sources. Okay, that the research was indeed carried out on that particular topic, and then a paper was produced, and that paper has been published. But also remember, we have what we call publication bias. Not everything that is published is actually very credible. Okay, not everything that is published is actually very credible. And we said that we have what we call publishing mills, or you can call them predatory journals. They exist, so you need to have the eyes to know that this journal, the research work that is published on this journal is not actually good. So the secondary sources, the books that you read, the textbooks that you read, these ones, we have books that are as a result of compilation of research articles. Okay, and then you have books that have a mixture of research articles and the opinions. Okay, so that's why we basically term them, see, the books and textbooks, they are mainly um, secondary sources. Okay, secondary sources of evidence. And then we have the dissertations and the theses that are produced by students and also academicians. These ones are also secondary what? Secondary sources of data or evidence. Similar to conference papers. You see, when you conduct research, you need to disseminate this research. So what you can do is that from your research article, you can have what you term as a conference paper. So this conference paper is designed in a is the main purpose is basically to communicate the research findings in a way that the people who read this will actually understand. So a conference paper is more or less about understanding. So it is not typically written. You can't basically just pick your research article and say this is my conference paper. The you get a conference paper from your research article. And then we have what you call gray literature, and it is an area that most of you do not recognize that is actually very important in your research work or even in your assignments. It may not be the best, but it's actually good that you actually know about it and you can still consult. So, what is this gray literature? So, for example, let us say an organization is working in, let us say, in Maban, and it has a program on gender based violence. Okay, so it produces program reports. So, these program reports, you have qualitative data and quantitative data in there. So, they produce these program reports. These program reports are not um, usually widely distributed. You usually find them on the websites of these organizations. Sometimes you can find them during maybe workshops. Okay, that is what we term as gray literature. So these reports are not produced or published in the traditional academic journals that we know of. That's why we term them as gray literature. This also consists of government reports. If you're looking at gender-based violence in South Sudan, if you go to Google Scholar, you may not really find a number of articles about gender-based violence in South Sudan. But if you know the NGOs that have been involved in gender-based violence programs, you go to their websites and get very good information there. Or you go to a government website and you will get good information there about gender-based violence. So that is great literature, and it is also very important, especially in situations where you don't have very good primary sources. So the things that you get on the websites, on social media, in the news, this is also information, but it is actually it has low credibility. Okay, if for example you have a TV program and then they invite an expert on mental health. So that meant that specialist now discusses issues to do with mental health and things like that. And then in your in your academic paper, you put that as a reference, it will be questioned because expert opinion lies the lowest in terms of um, the quality or credibility of the evidence that you have in there. Okay, so when we say that we want empirical evidence or we want research evidence, we are basically meaning that please give us articles that you read. And these articles are about, they are basically research articles. And these research articles are coming from reputable journals. Okay, so that means that published work is what is generally accepted as good quality work or evidence. Okay, so you need to know the distinction between a research article, an editorial, a commentary, an opinion. All those things you need to know them. Okay, remember we are looking for research articles. That's what we are looking for. Research studies, that's what we are looking for primarily. So when you're writing your scholarly papers, we are expecting you to reference research articles. Okay, so what is the difference between a research article and an expert opinion and an editorial or commentary? And some of the things you'll actually find them in the usual journals. So within a journal, you can still get an editorial, a commentary within a journal. So where you get these research articles, you can still get those papers that are commentary or basically editorial. So how do you know that this is a research article, this is just a commentary or an editorial? So you'll basically see the word research article. It will have an abstract introduction, a clear aim, the methodology section, and the findings section. If you see those things, then you're basically dealing with the research article. But if you don't, if an article is not having that, it's not having a section for introduction, methodology, the results, recommendations, and conclusion, if those things are not there, that is not a research article. So please always know that. Now, we are for you to get this evidence, you need to do literature search. Okay, you need to do a literature search. So with the literature search, you're basically gathering articles on that topic. Okay, that's what you're doing. So you gather this information and summarize it and then synthesize it. Usually, what most of you forget to do is that we tell you, for example, you choose a topic, you want to understand the risk factors for severe acute malnutrition in, let us say, Upper Nile State. That is, you want to do literature search and come up with an understanding about that topic. Now, what most of you forget is that you just randomly pick these papers that are about that topic and then you start writing. So you forget one step, which is synthesis. Okay? Synthesis. Synthesizing the information that you have gotten. And what does synthesis even mean? Now, what happens if you're really doing systematic, a very good literature review? You are supposed to search for these articles systematically and then evaluate and say, okay, which articles will I write about? So as you are picking, screening these articles, you compile them somewhere and then come up with a table where you have these articles, the authors, the major findings, and the major, I think, conclusion, whatever you can add and maybe your section for your own remarks about that table. So you have these research articles that you have picked. Okay, so you look at them and say, okay, what have I really obtained and how can I communicate it? That is what you call synthesis. But what most of you just do is just report directly. No, literature review, we don't just report that, okay, according to this study, the prevalence of hypertension is like this. According to the other study, that you're doing reporting. You have not done any analysis or synthesis. That's what we want you to do, basically do. Okay. So how do you find the evidence? Basically, how do you find the research articles? Most of you will run, you basically you run into Google. And in an academic sense, we are saying avoid Google or any other generic search engine. Safari is a search engine. Microsoft what? Edge. Okay, it's a search engine. So most of you run there and you just put what you're searching for in the search bar, and boom, you get what you get, and you're like, I'm done with my literature review. That is not that's not good literature review. So basically, the message is avoid Googling. Avoid Googling. Googling will not give you what you want. At least, if you're not using Google, maybe you can try to use Google Scholar, but it also has its own limitations. So, okay, we understand um, using Google is bad, right? That's what we are saying here. But at least you use Google Scholar. But also know the limitations of Google Scholar. That's the main message here. The best run to point for getting research articles, these are databases, okay, or basically journals. That's where you go. That's where you should go. So we have a number of these um, databases that you can use. Some of them you can access them for free, others not. And this is where we are having a problem as a country, that if we don't invest in research, there is no way we are going to have well maintained. We don't have a well maintained database here for all our research. That's a national problem that we have. But we have governments that actually invest in these databases, and all the work that is published is actually indexed in these databases. Okay, so the database is where you can always get your good good research articles or quality research articles. One major important aspect of using these databases is that you can tell the person, you can basically describe how you searched this database, such that even if someone else goes and follows the steps that you used in searching in this database, they can get the same kind of articles that you got. That is an issue to do with reproducibility. Okay, reproducing the results that you actually got. That is better in a database. Okay, so here we have an image of Google Scholar, and I wanted to emphasize that, for example, here I think what I did search was pregnancy care in prisons. So these are the results that I got, and in here we have you can call them filters that you can command Google Scholar to bring you particular papers, maybe from a particular period of time and things like that. So this is a feature that you can always use when looking for this. So these databases, here are some of them. These are some of the databases that you can use. What is important is that you need to know if I'm looking for evidence on a topic that is in public health, where can I go? In oncology, where can I go? In reproductive health, where can I go? Okay, so you need to know these databases. You have you have a number of them. You have those that are free and those that are not free. But also PubMed, for example, that I have here, this one is maintained by the US government. So it has a lot. For example, here they are saying that it comprises of 39 million citations for biomedical literature from medicine and life sciences journal. So you have within PubMed, you have very many journals within PubMed. That's why we are calling it a database. Okay, many libraries, many journals. So when you go to PubMed, you get articles from these different libraries and journals. So that's why it has those many resourceful articles. Okay, so you can try to check each of these databases and see what can you access, what can you not access. Now, when you are using a database to look for the articles that you want to put in your paper, you need to be very clear on the process of you looking for these articles. That process is what you call a search strategy. A search strategy. So here, at least to get the tips, what are the things that you need to know? I'm going to use an example of a person who is interested in understanding the barriers to hand washing among nurses. That's the topic that I want to get research articles on. So how do I go searching using that? So in your topic, you need to identify the key concepts, and you need to list them down. Okay. Why do you need to list these things down? Is that it allows you to think about other alternative words that can be used instead of the ones that you have. So, for example, we are saying that our topic is barriers to hand washing among nurses. But if we break this into concepts, we know that there is barrier, there is hand washing, and then there is nurses. Now, if we break this down, it means that we can get other words that can mean the same thing and we can still search for them. This is one of the mistakes that you people do, that you only stick to the words that you have in your topic. You cannot think outside the words that you have not put in your topic. So, for example, instead of you searching for barriers to hand washing among nurses, you can put obstacles to hand washing among nurses. So that means if you do that, it's just a small step, right? Instead of using the word barrier, maybe in the first search you used barriers, in the second search you're using the word obstacles. So when you use the second term, which is obstacles, it means that all the articles that use the word obstacles are going to come out. But if you only searched for barriers, you will not get these articles that are having obstacles. So you see, so you need to look for all these acronyms. Then we go to the other one, which is hand washing. Hand washing can mean, for example, hand hygiene. So your search can be that you're looking for obstacles to hand hygiene among nurses. You see, you still pick it up. So for you, if you stick only to hand washing, you leave the articles that are on hand hygiene out, because you did not think about the fact that other researchers will not use the word hand washing, but will use hand hygiene or hand scrubbing, okay, uh, or theater scrubbing, whatever it is. And you can replace the word nurses with, let us say, health workers, and you get all these articles. So you compile a number. You basically, what you're basically doing is that you need to make sure that your net can be able to capture as much as you can. Now, the third thing that you need to know is about what we call as Boolean operators. Boolean operators. Now, Boolean operators, these are and, or, and not. These are the common Boolean operators that you can use in your searches. You see, even when you search Google, you can still use these Boolean operators. That you can say barriers or, and this has to be capital. The O and R have to be capital. Barriers or obstacles to hand hygiene or hand washing among nurses. If you want also to look at, let us say, doctors, you can use and doctors. So it will capture everything that you have included in that search phrase, and it will come. So those are Boolean operators. You can use them in Google, but you can use them in databases such as PubMed, and they will be able to break for you all the research articles that you want. So those are 3 tips for now, right? Sometimes you just need to replace a single letter and you will get different results in terms of the research articles. For example, the word esophagus can actually be written in different ways. So if you don't know the different ways in which the word esophagus is written, if you write it in one particular way, it means that you're leaving out the other articles that wrote that word in another way. So sometimes you need to change just a single letter, and then you get totally different results. So you need always to know that. So that means that you need to know, for example, you can have in this topic here, barriers to hand washing among nurses. You may not have the word nurses there. You may have another word. You can have, let us say, nursing practitioners, something different. So if you have research articles that looked at, let us say, nursing practitioners, and for you only stuck with the word nurses, boom, you will not get it. Okay, so there are small things that you can always tweak, change a little bit, and they will bring you very good results. And then we look at another trick, which is truncation. To truncate is to cut. Truncation means cutting. So you can cut some words, and when you cut those words, it helps in bringing more results instead if you wrote the word fully. Now, for example, instead of saying, instead of writing the word nuns, you can shorten it. NURS, and you remove that E, and then put an asterisk. This here is an asterisk. This symbol is called an asterisk. I hope you're seeing my cursor. So when you cut, when you don't complete that word and then you add an asterisk, the database will bring anything that has these 4 letters in relation to your topic, because it is possible that another researcher could have used nurses, another researcher could have used the word nursing practice. So do you see the difference? So when you have an asterisk, it will bring for you everything, whether it is nurses, whether it is nurse, whether it is nursing practice. So that is asterisk. That's the other trick. That is, you use an asterisk in truncation to make sure that you pull a lot of things. You have a lot of research articles that will come. Okay? But don't have a very big net. Don't pull everything. So if you pull everything, they will disorganize you. So you need to be very careful in what you want to pull in terms of the search results. So don't pull a lot of unrelated things. It will be cumbersome and you'll not be able to manage. So those are some tricks there. Other tricks here, we're talking about what we call medical subject headings, what we term as mesh terms. Now, in a database, you have a lot of research articles, many, very many, in millions, remember. So they have to be indexed. That indexing is like filing them such that they can be easily retrieved. Easy retrieval. You see, even in your computer, you have different folders for every module, I believe. But if you're a disorganized person, in your computer, you don't have folders that separate different modules. And therefore, if you want to go and get the slides for epidemiology, it's going to be very hard for you. You don't know where to get them. So the same thing with the database. That these research articles have to be well indexed. So the indexing has to follow titular headings, and we call them the medical subject heading. Now, if you want to look for something to do with hand washing, if you go and type and search the mesh terms that represent what you call hand washing, you find out that the database will tell you that the mesh term is hand disinfection or hand hygiene. So for you, you know that if every article that is around this topic, if I put the term hand disinfection, I will get them because that is the mesh term for that term. Okay. Now I have an illustration here. So remember, yesterday we were using an example of someone who is interested in understanding maternal healthcare services in Juba Teaching Hospital. It's a very simple topic, but you need to break that topic such that you can get the concepts, such that you can get the key terms, such that you can get the mesh headings. So this is what we basically did here. If you're looking for maternal healthcare services, you can maybe say, okay, I'm looking for specifically pregnancy care. Pregnancy care for women who are in a prison. Here we have not specified the prison. So the key concept is basically pregnancy care and prison. Now, what are the keywords that can mean pregnancy care? We can have prenatal care, antenatal care, maternal care, maternity care, pregnancy care. Again, that is it's the same thing, right? So you see how many words are there? 1, 2, 3, 4. All these 4 words are meaning pregnancy care. So in my search strategy, I will make sure that I need to look for these terms in my search. So for all these terms, what is the database using? That is the medical subject heading. For them, they're using the term pregnancy care. So when I search for pregnancy care, it will bring for me all articles, whether they have antenatal care, maternal care, whether they have prenatal care. They will all bring these articles. Okay? If I use this mesh term. So pregnancy care is a mesh term. So all articles that are related to that topic, they are put under, they are indexed under that. So the search strategy is that I can, in the search bar of the database, put pregnancy care or antenatal care or maternal care or maternity care or prenatal care or pregnancy care. So when I say enter, it will bring for me all those things. Similarly, even prison, the word prison, it can mean jail. You can have jail. So you can have a research article that uses the word jail instead of prison. You can have a research article that talks about incarceration instead of prison. And then you have that word prison. So even in your search, you can say maternal care or antenatal care or prenatal care or maternity care among inmates, prisoners, inmates or prisoners, or women in incarceration. So when you do that, your net is wide. It's a big net. It will bring all these terms. So the common mistake that all of you do, most of you do, is that you forget these things. Then you say, for me, I did not find the articles about my topic. No, your search was not good. You did not use these techniques. Okay, and then you can apply the filters or the limits. These are, you say, okay, don't bring for me articles that are more than 5 years ago. Don't. Bring for me only articles that I can access, that are open source or that are free to access. Bring for me articles that are only in English. And bring for me articles that I can at least see the abstract. So you put these limits. So these are the things that I want. And then boom, you go and you get what you basically want. Okay? So you can get very many articles, have a table, summarize them, have some comments, and then you can later on write. Okay? So always when you're doing your literature review, think about the research articles that you have. Are they of good quality? Are they current? Are they old? Is it a primary research article, or is it basically a commentary, an opinion, or an editorial? Is it comprehensive? Did you do the search very well? Can you easily document it? Those are things that you can think about. So generally, in this presentation, we have seen that you can get evidence from primarily the database. If you know how to search the database, you are likely to get very good evidence. But if you use Google, that is not really recommended in an academic sense. But you can still use, for example, Google Scholar. And we have a number of free databases that you can actually you can use. And for example, for us as an institution, we have Inari, which is very rich with many articles and things like that. So understand these techniques. They are very helpful for your scholarly summative assignments, but also for your professional progression.